Yes. Hey, guys. Sam Roberts here. Welcome to another very special edition of Not Sam Wrestling. It is the end of the year. And so, with as much happened in 2025, I'm trying to tell the story of 2025 and more specifically, tell the story of 2025 within the WWE. What happened in 2025 in WWE? Because, I mean, there's so much going on. So much unpredictability, so much controversy, so much pivoting, so much everything that I feel like the best way to break it all down, to tell the one story is to tell it in the parts that you need to tell it in. So what we're doing is taking the top 12 moments, story moments in the year in 2025 that happened in WWE and putting them all together to kind of tell that bigger story of 2025. Now, yesterday, what did we do yesterday? Yesterday, we did the top 12. So part one was 12 through 7. And that was Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble. That was John Cena turning heel. That was Paul Heyman turning on Roman Reigns. That was Becky Lynch turning heel. That was Gunther retiring Goldberg, and that was R-Truth first getting fired and then returning. Now we are here for part 2, which is going to be 6 all the way through 1. Of course, I am not necessarily ranking them in terms of importance. More so, I'm ranking them in terms of, I guess, in my own head, how to best tell the story. And like I said yesterday, there was a lot of things happening across all forms of professional wrestling. You had stuff that happened in AEW. I was talking about in part 1. TNA had their own share of things. Of course, the NXT partnership took it to another level. Of course, the announcement of a television deal. I think in terms of superstars telling stories, really the first half of TNA belonged to Joe Hendry and the splash that he made, ending with Joe Hendry being a full-time member of the WWE roster by the end of the year. But also Mike Santana, the rise of Mike Santana is, I think, ultimately what really is the headline of TNA in 2025. And I think something that is going to be a big part of TNA in 2026 as well. But let's get to it. If you missed part 1, go watch part 1, maybe even watch or listen to part 1 after this. But part 2 of the top 12 moments in the WWE in 2025 that tell that story. And we start here with number 6. The number 6 moment is Brock Lesnar returning at SummerSlam. Now, Brock Lesnar, up until SummerSlam, was in that category of people who we didn't know if or when they would ever be back in the WWE. The last time we had seen Brock Lesnar, I want to say it was SummerSlam 2023, if I'm not mistaken, when he lost to Cody Rhodes and he raised his arm in the air, and that was it, right? So we get to SummerSlam this year in 2025, and the build-up to SummerSlam brought us back to what we had left at WrestleMania. WrestleMania was Cody Rhodes versus John Cena in a match that people maybe didn't think lived up to expectation in terms of what was going on in the ring, and a lot of that was attributed to John Cena's heel turn, which also didn't quite live up to a lot of fans' expectations. So we get to SummerSlam when a heel at the time, John Cena, who has defended his title against Randy Orton, he had defended it against CM Punk, he had faced R-Truth, but I don't think he had faced him in a title match. But now he gets to SummerSlam to defend against the ex-champion Cody Rhodes. So we get to a contract signing between Cody Rhodes and John Cena, and Cody Rhodes beats the stuffing out of John Cena. John Cena, no. Before he beat the stuffing out of John Cena, I should say, John Cena, in his ultimate heelish ways, almost sounding like an overprivileged celebrity, says that he is, he's suffering from exhaustion, is what's going on between his movies being scheduled and all of the wrestling that he's been doing. That he just, for his own sake and for the sake of everybody involved, he's decided he's going to take SummerSlam off. Don't worry, Cody. You'll get your shot. It just won't be at SummerSlam. And I felt like there was so much underlying here. First of all, it was like playing the role of the diva celebrity. Second of all, it was playing the role of the part-timer in professional wrestling and really, leaning into the heel side of it. But also, even that, like, don't worry, you'll still get the title shot. Don't, Cody, this is going to be good for you. You're still going to get the title shot, just not at SummerSlam. Really did kind of bring you back to what might or might not have been going on around WrestleMania 40. I thought that there were a lot of layers to this version of John Cena. And Cody Rhodes did not accept that answer. That's when he beat the stuffing out of John Cena, put him through a table, beat him from pillar to post, grabbed his hand, and made him sign the contract. And the match was made official, though a lot of us said that contract can't possibly hold up in a court of law. Luckily, and I don't think it would have. I think that you would definitely have said that the contract was signed under duress. But luckily for Cody, we did not have to bring the contract into a court of law because John Cena showed up at the SmackDown the night before SummerSlam. So he was wrestling night 2, so I guess 2 nights before he was wrestling Cody. But that Friday night at The Rock in Newark, the Prudential Center, John Cena shows up. And he gets in the ring with Cody, and that's the night that John Cena spilled his guts. Out of nowhere, John Cena basically says that when Cody Rhodes beat the stuffing out of him, that it woke him up. It reminded him of who he was. It reminded him that he wasn't being authentic. He wasn't being himself. He wasn't speaking to the fans in an authentic way. And that it had gotten to the point where he had just remembered who he was. He said that he had to admit that he acted completely out of character for the sake of someone else's idea of a viral moment. And without saying it, that was it. He was basically, a lot of people wondered, okay, because I think we were all in some type of agreement that John Cena would have to end the year as a babyface. But we didn't quite know how he was going to get there because the heel turn had become such a meandering road that clearly did not have a clear path. And so instead, he just kind of acknowledged that fan interest had, well, he didn't say fan interest had fallen off of the heel run, but that he knew what fans were waiting for. They wanted the old John Cena. And when he said somebody else's idea of a viral moment, it was almost like this acknowledgement of, I hear you. You were right. All you guys that are being critical of this, you were right. There is nothing to this. There's nothing here. And fans, I think, were so ready for Cena to come back. We're so ready to celebrate John Cena on this retirement run that's all it took. There were some cynical people that were going, that's it? Shouldn't he have to do more? Shouldn't he have to? But for me, it's like the answer to that question is going to be judged by the audience. If he should have to do more, the audience will tell him he has to do more. But if he does exactly what he did and the audience is now on his side, then he doesn't have to do more. And as it turns out in that instance, John Cena did not have to do more because he said that the real John Cena is coming back. The real John Cena will be defending the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. Fans didn't accept it because it was a good explanation, but it was because they wanted the old John Cena back. So it was like, however we're going to get it, we're going to get it. And the fact that he said the thing about, someone else's idea for a viral moment, it was like, okay, all right. That part you are owning up to. There was still, however, like a lot of conversation leading up to SummerSlam in the sort of like, is this a real thing? I remember, cutting the emergency podcast. And for me, I said, yeah, I really think that's it. But then there were others that were like, no, it can't be it. I think it's another swerve. Some thought Cody was going to turn. Some thought John Cena had only turned so that he could turn once more. But in reality, none of that happened. The match was made. It was a street fight. Cody Rhodes trying to get the WWE Championship away from John Cena. And when John Cena came out, really the signal that it was like, I'm back now. Like, don't wait for the other shoe to drop. This is for real. Is that Tron came on, right? And the ramp lit up and everything. It was that black screen with the white lettering that just said John Cena on it. And then as soon as it went, all the colors light up. It's bright as can be. The colors are matching his shirt, and the crowd just went nuts. John Cena is talking to Stu, the cameraman, again. He is back. It's everything that we've been waiting for. It's perfection. And he runs to the ring, and for one night only, of this whole year, we got one night where we got to see the old John Cena holding the WWE Championship. John Cena won his 17th world title, but we only got one night where the old John Cena, the John Cena that we wanted, is the John Cena that we got to see carrying that title. It was a magic moment, and what we got was, I mean, probably one of, if not John Cena's best matches of his retirement tour. And then when you look at that retirement tour, obviously John Cena versus AJ Styles is going to be up there. And for a lot of people, that was it. But man, this match blew people away. I think it was lost on people, myself maybe included, that John Cena was working in a type of way because he was a heel. Because when he started working at SummerSlam, it was the best match you've seen him do in years and years and years. I mean, it was a fantastic match with Cody Rhodes. It was amazing to watch. They went all over the arena. It was everything. He engaged with fans like the old days. It was perfect. And it was John Cena that would end up losing the match. And this, to me, was the moment. People talk about passing the torch. There are many different ways that somebody can handle loss and somebody can pass on to the next generation. But passing the torch is a big deal. I have always said when you pass the torch, I believe, you have to pass it to somebody that's ready to carry it. You can't just take anybody and pass them the torch, because if they're not ready for it, it's not going to do anything for them. Cody Rhodes was ready for it. And on that night, Cody Rhodes had the torch passed to him. That night also proved that John Cena still had the ability to have these great matches. And after Cody left the ring, John Cena was left just kind of looking at the crowd, right? And looking around, acknowledging, okay, we're back now. Now it's time to go back to work. Also acknowledging, listen, we have August, September, October, November. We have, 4 or 5 months left of this thing. Let's make the best of it. Also acknowledging that in this happy moment, the reality is that John Cena just lost the WWE Championship. And odds are, based on the rules of how this thing is going, that this is going to be the last time, even though your hero is back, even though you've seen something truly unexpected, John Cena has probably lost the WWE Championship for a long time. Or for the last time, I should say. He's probably lost the WWE Championship for the very last time. And just as you're soaking this all in, something actually unexpected happens. Something that nobody saw coming happens. Just as it had the night after WrestleMania 28 on Monday Night Raw, Brock Lesnar's music starts playing. And it was people thought he would never be back, but there he was. The Beast hit the ring, and the Tron lights up, and he's walking down, and John Cena is not sure why he's there. And Brock Lesnar gets in the ring and F5s John Cena. Leaves him laying. And that's how SummerSlam ends. Brock Lesnar, to me, was the perfect guy to bring out to really speed up the idea of good guy John Cena being back. You need an absolute bad guy for good guy John Cena to be back. And Brock Lesnar might be the ultimate villain, super villain, that John Cena had ever faced in his career. And so people, I mean, they could not believe what they had seen. After SummerSlam, John and Brock would both pop up separately on episodes of SmackDown. I believe there was one instance when John caught an F5 from Brock Lesnar on SmackDown as well. But it all led up to this match at this new show, WrestlePalooza, that we were talking about in part 1. That Brock Lesnar return. I think we were talking about WrestlePalooza. Maybe we weren't. But Brock Lesnar returns for WrestlePalooza. And we get the match, John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. And while I don't think that the match went exactly as a lot of fans would have liked for it to go, in the sense that, like, when Brock came in and he treated John Cena similarly to how he had treated John Cena at the SummerSlam after WrestleMania 30, it was uncomfortable. And that's something Brock Lesnar has done before. That's something that makes Brock Lesnar Brock Lesnar. He has the ability to be that bad guy and make those matches that are straight up uncomfortable to watch. And Brock Lesnar beat John Cena at WrestlePalooza. And I think even after, there were a lot of people that were so kind of taken aback by the loss that John Cena took that they were almost like, I mean, there were some that were like, well, Brock Lesnar must be John Cena's last match, or they must be, they've got to meet again. John Cena's got to get his win back, and it never would happen. Because really, that was just John Cena doing what he could do to get Brock Lesnar to an even bigger level, so that when he goes into 2026, since John won't be there, Brock can be that supervillain again. And we would see Brock Lesnar again once more in a match in 2025. Well, we'd see him on the WrestleMania poster, which for me, once I saw Brock on the WrestleMania poster at that poker table with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, I said, well, there you go. That's exactly why. Number one, that's why Brock Lesnar beat John Cena at WrestlePalooza. And number two, that's why you're not going to see Brock Lesnar and John Cena interact at all after this, because that's what it was for. So that Brock Lesnar is ready to be a top-tier WrestleMania attraction in 2026. And we'd see Brock Lesnar again. Of course, Paul Heyman would make the surprise appearance at WrestlePalooza to introduce Brock Lesnar, which would lead to their partnership rekindling, Brock Lesnar being on the Visions team at War Games. And on that docket of people who we're looking at as we start to figure out what's going to happen in the Royal Rumble, what's going to happen at WrestleMania, and even going forward, where I guess SummerSlam is, I think, going to be in Minnesota this year, with the idea being that could be a huge platform for Brock Lesnar to perform on. So my number 6 moment is Brock Lesnar's return at SummerSlam. Not just because of everything that happened around it, but also just because of what an absolute shock that moment was. SummerSlam this year had a lot of great moments. SummerSlam might have been better than WrestleMania this year because SummerSlam Night 2 ended with a shock that was number 6, Brock Lesnar returning. But Night 1 also ended with a shock. It ended with my number 5 moment. The ruse of the century, Seth Rollins cashes in the Money in the Bank briefcase. So Seth Rollins was as vocal and clear as he ever has been about his feelings on CM Punk in 2025. He hates CM Punk. And this year, he made that even more clear than any other year in the past. He can't stand this CM Punk. So what does Seth Rollins do? Well, while Seth Rollins is on this quest to gain the World Heavyweight Championship, while Seth Rollins is on this quest to, well, actually, he was the World Heavyweight Champion. While Seth Rollins is on this quest to, well, not yet, I guess. He hasn't gotten there yet. This is where he would get it. While Seth Rollins was on this quest to get the heavyweight championship, and Seth Rollins was on this quest to put the Vision into the spot that the Vision needed to be in, he was at Saturday Night's Main Event. This was actually the same show where Gunther retired Goldberg. and Seth Rollins had his match with LA Knight. Now, Seth, he walked in with his Money in the Bank briefcase, ready to go to war with LA Knight. The two of them are going back and forth. And then partway into the match, Seth Rollins goes for this second rope springboard moonsault. But LA Knight is laid out in the center of the ring. He gets up. Rollins lands on his feet and appears to tweak his knee. LA Knight turns around, ready to get him in some kind of move, ready to continue on with the match. But now the referee is pushing him away. Seth Rollins is in the corner. And every part of it felt like what it feels like when injuries are real. It all like at first, I think every part of it felt like, oh boy, something bad just happened. To the point where, after a period of time of referees checking on him and LA Knight looking like he was just kind of stalling for time. And this is live on NBC television, by the way. While all this is going on, Seth finally just kind of feebly limps over to LA Knight and he hits him with the BFT. 1, 2, 3. LA Knight wins. So LA Knight not only wins clean with his finish, but Rollins walked right into it. It had the same energy. It wasn't dissimilar from, Owen Hart walking into the worst roll-up in history after Stone Cold Steve Austin had suffered that injury to make sure that Steve Austin still won the match. It felt like, to an educated wrestling fan's eye, it felt like, or was designed to feel like, Seth Rollins wanted to make sure there was a result to the match. That even if Seth was supposed to win, he knew he was injured, and we need to get a result. We need to move forward. LA Knight gets the pin. And then that was it. Rollins went home. He went away. Went to go get checked out, with what was reportedly an injury. He was non-specific, really, about exactly what the injury was. But, not long after that, he was the guest host on the Rich Eisen show. But he rolled on with a leg brace. He said he couldn't really talk too much about what was going on, but he was going to be out for a considerable amount of time and kind of just moved on. And there were some dirt sheets that said that the injury could be worked. And everybody was very mixed up. The dirt sheets were saying that the injury could be worked. However, nothing that Rollins was doing was suspicious of the fact that this was actually a storyline injury. They had designed this injury not to look like a storyline injury, but to look like a real injury. And so even the people who, had these reports that it was part of a storyline were also saying, look, this is what I'm hearing, but I don't know for sure. At SummerSlam, though, it was just all uncertainty. But even when we were fantasy booking stuff and talking about who's going to do what when, the idea of Rollins coming back was not a popular one because most people believed that he was indeed injured. At SummerSlam, while the title was on the waist of Gunther, who had beaten Jey Uso to regain the World Heavyweight title, CM Punk earned the number one contendership. So CM Punk went to the main event of SummerSlam to face Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. It was a massive moment for CM Punk. This, to me, was designed to be the culmination of Punk's return to the WWE. A return that was really never supposed to happen. A return that people gave, a very first, people didn't think it was going to happen. Then they thought that it wasn't going to last. Then they wondered if physically he was going to be able to hang in there. There was so much doubt around this whole thing. But the fact that he did it, the fact that he was able to go forward and get to that match, it was the moment, There were two moments that people were waiting for CM Punk, and they'd seen one of them. The first was for CM Punk to make it to the main event of WrestleMania, and he finally had done it at WrestleMania 41. Now it was to find out if this version of CM Punk could be the World Heavyweight Champion. And they had a great match, but on that night, CM Punk was able to conquer Gunther. CM Punk became the world heavyweight champion. And it's really important to note that, not just for Seth, not just for Punk, but for Gunther as well. For those that say, Gunther's already a top guy. He doesn't need this. He doesn't need that. This is what would happen with Gunther. He'd win a lot, but then he'd get to WrestleMania and lose to Jey Uso. He'd win a lot, but then he'd get to SummerSlam and lose to CM Punk. And CM Punk stood there, WWE World Heavyweight Champion, and he held that title for about 5 minutes. Because just as he was celebrating, Seth Rollins appeared on the stage with Paul Heyman, and Seth hadn't been on television at all. But other than Rich Eisen, he hadn't been on WWE television at all. Seth had his knee brace on. Seth had his crutches on. And commentary even put it over. I mean, people realize, like, oh my God, this can't be it. No way, no way, no way, no way. He didn't get us like this. He didn't get us like this. Because now it had been like about a month or something like that. 3 weeks to a month that he had been out. And you were like, no way. No way is he getting us like this. And then commentary put it over as like, oh, he's just up there to observe. Seth Rollins is just up there. That's what commentary said. Seth Rollins is just up on stage to remind CM Punk that he's always watching. And when he's better, Punk's going to have to watch out for him. One of those, just a threat. Just his presence was meant to be a threat. And then that knee brace starts getting peeled off. And you go, oh my God. And Seth Rollins dropped his crutches like he was Willy Wonka, coming out of the chocolate factory for the first time to welcome the children who had won golden tickets into the factory. And as he threw those crutches to his side, Paul Heyman is laughing, and Seth Rollins is walking briskly to the ring without a care in the world, certainly no injury to worry about, holding the Money in the Bank briefcase. And in that moment, Seth Rollins won the title from CM Punk, cashing in the Money in the Bank briefcase, getting the World Heavyweight Championship from CM Punk. And just as before, he had the heist of the century at WrestleMania 31. At SummerSlam 2025, he had done the ruse of the century. It was the ruse of the century. Seth Rollins was not injured, had not been injured, and used his moment, bided his time to get to the point where he could get in there and he could take everything away from CM Punk. And Seth Rollins ended night one of SummerSlam as the World Heavyweight Champion. Seth Rollins would go on to carry the title for about 3 months, at which point karma would come back to get him. And I would kind of get into that story. However, we'll probably touch on it without spoiling too much. We'll probably touch on that as we move forward. But really, when you look at these stories in the order that I'm doing them, you start to see, which superstars really did own 2025. Let's go on to story number 4. Story number 4 in my top 20. Top 25. We'll be here for a while. My top 12 stories that made the WWE in 2025. And I think this will surprise some people, but I think, and maybe I'm playing favorites here, but I think that this one is important because I think that 2025 was the year that people looked at a certain performer and realized, like, all joking aside, all ironies aside, this person is going to be a big star. This person has it. And it's interesting with it, because usually you think if you have it, or you don't. But sometimes you don't see it right away. And then you start to see it, and you go, oh, this is fun. And then one day it just all hits you, or you're like, oh, no, this isn't just fun. This is it. This guy has it. For me, story number 4 is Dominic Mysterio wins the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. Now, why did I pick this moment? Just because Dominic's story, I think, is very important to 2025. And if I had to, and I'm doing it by moment. So if I had to pick one moment, I think this would be the moment. This was the moment that it was like, oh, wow, we really have something here with Dominic Mysterio. So, Dominic had, of course, been a big part of the Judgment Day for a long time. And somehow his act with Liv Morgan got even bigger and even better than his act with Rhea Ripley. Last year and the year, but like the end of 2023 and throughout 2024, Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio as a couple was massive. And it put Dominic Mysterio on an entirely different level. And then they did the split. And they had Rhea turn babyface, and Dominic Mysterio ended up coupled with Liv Morgan. And I think that was probably mainly done for Rhea, because it was time for Rhea to be the big star that she was destined to become. In actuality, in what people would thought would be like, I mean, this is good, but nothing's going to beat Dom and Mommy. The Liv Dom chemistry, the Liv Dom act was even better. Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio together, like, that was when it was like, oh, these two are both top tier stars. I never want to see this act split up. And then Liv Morgan went down with an injury. Liv Morgan went down with an injury not too long after WrestleMania. But Dominic Mysterio had already built up enough sort of credibility and substance that he was able to maintain. And I think a lot of that credibility and substance hits at WrestleMania 41. So at WrestleMania 41, the Intercontinental Championship was on the line in a fatal four-way. Braun Breaker had become the Intercontinental Champion, and he was defending against Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. A lot going on here. Of course, Braun Breaker, like a shining example of what's to come, of what the future of the WWE is. Penta is this new star that had only debuted at the beginning of January, but it had already become so iconic in the landscape of WWE. And then Finn Balor entering into this match with Dominic Mysterio. It was double Judgment Day representation. But at a time, which, by the way, most of the year was like this, when there was enough sort of tension, low-key tension, but tension nonetheless in the Judgment Day, where you wondered kind of who was on whose side the entire time. At the end of this fatal four-way, Finn Balor was able to hit his coup de grace on Braun Breaker. And Balor goes for the cover, but just as Balor goes for the cover, Dominic Mysterio hits the frog splash off the top rope, lands on Finn Balor's back, who is on top of Braun Breaker, and as Finn Balor rolls over, clutching his side, Dominic Mysterio pins his own Judgment Day teammate. 1, 2, 3. Dominic Mysterio wins and becomes the new Intercontinental Champion. Now, the Judgment Day would be able to survive this. It was a fatal four-way. Dominic had his excuses. However they had to get through it, they got through it. But I think this moment was not just important because of the title win, but because this was the moment that everything changed. This was the moment that Dominic truly stepped up and that the appreciation for Dominic became clear. Before this, whenever Dominic would cut a promo, it was like he couldn't get a word out. Everybody was booing him. And in the very beginning, they were booing him legitimately, and then they were booing him ironically, and then they were having a great time booing him. They were buying tickets to boo him, but not in the sense that they wanted him to lose, just because it was so fun. But when you get to a point where it is fun to boo, and we're all laughing and having a great time, you don't have a heel at that point. And what happened when Dominic won the Intercontinental Championship is that people couldn't help admitting that they loved him. They loved everything about Dom and everything about the experience that Dom was giving to them. And in that moment, the fans all kind of gave up on the idea of like, okay, and this is the part where we boo, right? They gave up on their role and said, no, we're happy about this. And they went nuts. It was one of the loudest babyface reactions that WrestleMania had that year. Everybody lost their minds for Dominic Mysterio. Like, they even had Dominic, like, up the ramp. He ran back to the ring so he could celebrate on the ropes. And everybody just cheered like crazy, like crazy. It was a true admission that Dom had it and was going to be a player going forward. I mean, he came on and did Raw Recap or WrestleMania Recap, the podcast after that match. And everybody loved the interview. Everybody loved him. He went on and did the post show, and the live crowd was still cheering for him on the post show. It was he had got to hold the title for a while. He held the title until John Cena beat him for it at John's last Boston show. But then 3 weeks later, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks later, it was 3 weeks later. 2, whatever it was. They go to Survivor Series with Dominic Mysterio getting his rematch against John Cena. And Dominic Mysterio became one of only a handful of people that beat John Cena. Dominic Mysterio pinned John Cena, reunited with Liv Morgan, and became a 2-time Intercontinental Champion at Survivor Series. An amazing moment, but really that Dom win was just everything. In terms of those reactions, those big reactions, one of those big reactions is my moment number 3. And my moment number 3 is AJ Lee returning to the WWE. So, like I was saying with Brock Lesnar and John Cena, WWE this year announced a new PLE to launch their partnership with ESPN called WrestlePalooza. And in an effort to make the biggest card that they could possibly make, of course, they put John Cena and Brock Lesnar on it, but they also had a match in mind that, again, I don't think any of us realized was going to happen. We certainly didn't think we were going to see it this year. On the first Raw in September, coming off of SummerSlam and everything that had happened with the cash-in, CM Punk called out Seth Rollins. And as Seth Rollins' music played because of the call-out, it was Becky Lynch that came out. Becky Lynch was the one that would come forward. She walked up the aisle doing actually a pretty amazing Seth Rollins impression and got right in the face of CM Punk. Becky and Punk went back and forth, and it was really amazing, honestly. If you go back and watch this segment, it's really cool to see because you're watching two of the best on mics go back and forth. And in what other context are you going to get to see a promo battle straight up between Becky Lynch and CM Punk? Seth Rollins was not in the ring. It was Becky and Punk in the ring together, just going promo for promo. And it was fantastic. Seth was part of the segment, but he would kind of show himself in the entryway as just kind of like just there to cheer Becky Lynch and kind of be a distraction for CM Punk and just try to get under his skin and get under his skin. But Becky totally lost it and just started slapping CM Punk in the face over and over again, in the chest, started, digging her forehead into Punk's chest, going, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Just trying to make CM Punk look absolutely helpless, trying to make CM Punk look absolutely pathetic. And as it was happening, Punk promised revenge. He promised revenge on Seth for cashing in at SummerSlam. He promised Becky that he wasn't going to hit a woman. He made that very clear. I'm not going to hit a woman. But he told Becky he was going to make sure that she regretted hitting him. And it was really interesting watching this interaction because after that episode of Raw, all of us speculative fans started putting these breadcrumbs together. And we realized that 4 days later, SmackDown was going to be in Chicago. And we went, oh my gosh, is this going to be it? SmackDown's going to be in Chicago. Seth and Becky are on one side. Punk can't hit a woman. And I remember specifically going over every alternative, just so we didn't get our hopes up too much. I said, well, could be Rhea Ripley. Could be Bayley. Could be that. But we all knew There was only one person that it had to be. What was great was that it wasn't about dirt sheets. It was about logic. It wasn't about reading reports on the internet that this might be happening or that might be happening. It was just about knowing what venue SmackDown was in and logically what that story is. What is going on in front of our face? What exactly is going on? And they go out there, SmackDown in Chicago. Punk and Becky are getting into it again. Seth Rollins is operating from the top of the bleachers. He's in the stands, while Punk and Becky are once again in a promo battle, going after each other. And the crowd, I mean, it was sold out. I think it was in the Rosemont Horizon, and it was sold out. And what was really interesting was there was like a discernible difference in ticket sales after the Raw promo. Like the 4 days leading up to SmackDown, resale got higher. All the tickets got sold because people were like, oh my God, I think we're going to get this moment. He talked about all the friends that he had, CM Punk did. And it was really everybody that we had talked about. CM Punk mentioned, you don't think I could call Bayley? You don't think I could call Rhea Ripley? And Becky was like, big deal. I've dealt with all those people. This isn't. And then she started smacking him again. She started smacking CM Punk again. And then CM Punk said, I told you I would never put my hands on a lady. But luckily, I got somebody that will. And then the music hit. Light it up, light it up, light it up, light it up. And she was back. It was AJ Lee. AJ Lee, who even when CM Punk came back, there was a big part, I think, of all of us that were like, we may never get AJ again. If she hasn't come back yet, and she hasn't even hinted at coming back, and she clearly has a lot of other stuff going on, we may not see her ever again. And there she was. The logo was the same. The music was the same. She came out in her Spider t-shirt. She came out in her jean shorts with her Vans on. I mean, AJ was back, and she skipped to the ring, just like old times. She went past, like skipped right past her prideful husband, CM Punk, and got in the ring. AJ she was so good once she was back, AJ Lee. You know, she was like getting in there, and not only was she just like sitting on the rope, you know, like she used to do, just allowing all the audience to react to her. She got her hands on Becky Lynch a little bit when we realized it was actually going to happen. We're getting the mixed tag team match. AJ Lee and CM Punk versus Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. AJ on the way there, I mean, she's so beloved. She cut a promo on mental health and had the audience chanting, therapy, therapy. It was like, I mean, listen, if you want to use your voice to make a difference and to push something that you believe in, AJ Lee is a prime example of how you could do that. And we get to the WrestlePalooza match, and I mean, it really is just this celebration of a match. It took a long time. AJ Lee did not get in the ring for quite a while, but once she did, it was off to the races. And eventually, she did make Becky Lynch tap out to that Black Widow. And there we were. The good guys win. As bummed out as everybody was when Brock Lesnar beat John Cena, this was the feel-good moment on the first PLE on the ESPN app. CM Punk and AJ Lee winning the mixed tag against Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. She would do the same thing at War Games. You know, AJ Lee would get in there and she would make Becky Lynch tap. Now we still, and that was all, by the way. That was it. Couple promos leading to WrestlePalooza. The WrestlePalooza match itself, they showed footage of AJ Lee coming in that day on SmackDown and signing the contract with Triple H backstage. She was back for War Games, where she made Becky Lynch tap out again. And that's what she did in 2025. We don't know what kind of a player she'll be in 2026. She was not in the WrestleMania commercial. We don't know if it's going to be a special attraction thing. We don't know if they're going match by match. We don't know. But the fact that we saw AJ Lee back at all, I mean, go back. I think because so much happened this year and because AJ Lee only wrestled those 2 matches that we almost forget that happened. But go back to September. And also that WrestlePalooza PLE. Like it was 3 weeks after Clash in Paris. There was another one right after it. They just snuck it in there. And it was kind of a massive show that was just, snuck in there under the radar. So I feel like we forget a lot of what happened there. But go back. Watch that AJ Lee return on SmackDown. Watch that reaction. And I am telling you, it is such a cool thing. Really, really fun. Really, really fun. That was my number 3 moment. Number 3 was AJ Lee returns to the WWE. Now we get to number 2. And number 2, again, goes back. I'll tell you what. I don't know where you guys think Seth Rollins and the Vision rank in terms of 2025. But realistically, just today, right? Just on part 2, you've got Seth cashing in at 5, AJ Lee returning at 3. That's 2 Seth Rollins centered stories because he was a big part of the AJ Lee return. On part 1, Heyman turns on Roman Reigns. Becky turns heel. That might. So at least 4 of the 12 of these stories are Seth Rollins centered stories. That's big. John Cena a big part. Seth Rollins a big part. Huh. Because my number 2 story is the Vision turns on Seth Rollins. Now, and this is why I say, right, that the way these are numbered out, is the Vision turning on Seth Rollins a bigger story than Paul Heyman turning on Roman Reigns? No. Paul Heyman turning on Roman Reigns was one of the biggest things that happened all year. But as we're telling the story and how these smaller stories make up the bigger story of what the WWE was in 2025, because that's what we're doing, running down the top 12 stories of 2025 that made the story of WWE in 2025. You can't tell this story before you tell those stories. You have to, it all leads to this, right? And I told you that there was going to be karma waiting for Seth Rollins. After Seth Rollins won the World Heavyweight Championship from CM Punk, he was on a roll. He was defending the World Heavyweight title. He even went to Crown Jewel, where he faced Cody Rhodes in a champion versus champion match, like they do for the Crown Jewel prize. And Seth Rollins beat Cody Rhodes. Now, this was a big deal because, of course, they hearkened back to everything that the 2 of them had done when Cody first returned to the WWE. The WrestleMania, Backlash, and Hell in a Cell trifecta of matches that were amazing, but Cody Rhodes won all of them. And there was always that thing that connected Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. And so here, to see them both as WWE champion and World Heavyweight champion meet again, it was a big deal. Cody won all 3 of those first matches. This was the first time that Seth Rollins actually beat Cody Rhodes. But also during the match, you had that moment, but you also had Seth Rollins hitting a coast to coast. And when Seth Rollins hit that coast to coast from one turnbuckle to the other, he landed kind of weird on his arm or whatever. It popped out his shoulder, and boom, Seth Rollins is out. And you're hearing rumors about this. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's not true. And 2 days later, they get to Monday Night Raw, where Seth Rollins is there with the Vision. Now, people still, I think now maybe less, but certainly then, there was a big discussion as to whether or not this injury was legit. And that's really because it was a boy who cried wolf scenario. We had just gone through this with the Saturday Night's Main Event LA Knight knee injury. It's wrestling after all. So he showed up on Raw. He had the title still, and he was in the ring with the Vision. What I don't think anybody expected was for Braun Breaker to turn on Seth Rollins that night. As they're standing in the ring together, Braun Breaker takes out Seth Rollins. And Paul Heyman is shook. Paul Heyman does not know what to make of this at first. This was not a Paul Heyman plan. But Paul Heyman quickly realizes, look, that guy has an injury and Braun Breaker just took him out. Well, whose side are you going to be on? Bronson Reed looks at Braun Breaker and goes, are we really doing this? And Braun Breaker goes, yeah, we are. And Bronson Reed goes, say less. And tsunamis Seth Rollins right there in the ring. There were, I think that people saw the breakup of the Vision as an inevitability, but I don't think anybody saw it happening this quickly. I don't think anybody saw Seth getting turned on this quickly. And honestly, Seth probably wouldn't have gotten turned on this quickly had it not been for the injury. But regardless, he did. And Seth got taken out, and Braun Breaker held up the World Heavyweight Championship like it was his and left. Braun, ended up having to hand over the title, which eventually was won once again by CM Punk. But Seth was gone. And this new Vision was Paul Heyman, was Braun Breaker, and was Bronson Reed. But the whole thing, even though Braun Breaker didn't get the World Heavyweight Championship, he was kind of immediately skyrocketed. Braun Breaker's spot in the Vision was one that was kind of, it was defined, more by like being the muscle to Seth Rollins. The idea of Braun Breaker in the Vision was he's the future of WrestleMania. And when the future was happening was like totally indiscernible. So like what it could be years from now, right? And Seth Rollins didn't seem like he was stepping aside anytime soon. It's not like Seth Rollins said, I'm coming out here for a year. I'm going to get these guys over and then I'm going to split. It was Seth Rollins is like, I'm taking the industry over. I'm going to be the face. I'm going to be the guy. These guys have my back. And then eventually it'll be their turn. But all of a sudden, with Seth off television and Braun Breaker having turned on him, Braun Breaker got skyrocketed immediately. Braun Breaker was looked at as a totally different animal and strategically was kept out of certain matches as to keep his look of like potentially when he gets the opportunity, he's going to be a problem. On the way to War Games, Logan Paul would join the Vision and he'd be put the group with Logan Paul joining. And by the way, like if you go back, I thought Logan Paul should join the Vision early on, before while Seth was still there. But Logan Paul joining the Vision and putting all those things together, it's actually put this faction in this space that is, I would argue, far more cohesive than it ever was in the past. I think that the Vision actually feels like, and it's odd because the Vision is named after somebody who was once called the Visionary. Like the Visionary of the Vision is not in the Vision anymore. Yet still, there's something about it where you go, this makes more sense. There's something more tangible about this. That like the group is in a better spot now. And now that like Austin Theory is doing whatever it is that Austin Theory is doing as the masked man, being associated with the Vision, you look forward to 2026 and you realize that Braun Breaker has a title match to start 2026. The first Raw of 2026 is Braun Breaker versus CM Punk. I mean, 2026 is going to be very big, not just for the group, but for all the members of the group. And then at some point, you'll have Seth Rollins returning. Now, there's two things when I look forward. There's three things that could happen. Number one, Braun Breaker loses to CM Punk. That's possible. Number two, Braun Breaker wins the title from CM Punk. I think it's possible. Or number three, Seth Rollins comes back in January. We do not have a timetable on when Seth Rollins is coming back. It could be before WrestleMania, could be after WrestleMania, could be the Royal Rumble. Who's to say? But if Seth Rollins were to come back, is he going to cost Braun Breaker the championship? Because if he costs Braun Breaker the championship, he's helping CM Punk. I mean, the Seth Rollins, I cannot wait for Seth Rollins to come back. Seth Rollins is going to come back like John Wick with just a list of enemies. It's Roman. It's Punk. It's Cody to an extent. It's Braun Breaker. It's Bronson Reed. It's Logan Paul. It's Austin Theory. Like, he's going to have so much to do. If this gets played right and Seth Rollins is able to capture momentum, there is such a babyface run waiting for Rollins. And with an opponent list that goes down that deep, I think it could be really, really good. I mean, Brock Lesnar now has another reason to be in there with Seth Rollins, potentially, if this is where it goes. Because who is a Paul Heyman guy if not Brock Lesnar? So that's why I put it at number 2. The Vision turning on Seth Rollins was not only a shocking moment, it was a moment that really put everybody where they needed to be towards the end of this year, and is a moment that I think will have huge effects going into 2026. Now, let's get to it. The number one moment. Once again, we'll recap all the moments that we've been through. Jey Uso wins the Royal Rumble. John Cena turns heel. Paul Heyman turns on Roman Reigns. Becky Lynch turns heel. Gunther retires Bill Goldberg. R-Truth gets fired and returns. Brock Lesnar returns at SummerSlam. Seth Rollins cashes in. Dominic Mysterio wins the Intercontinental Championship. AJ Lee returns. And the Vision turns on Seth Rollins. To me, there is no doubt what can be the number one moment. The number one moment of the year is the moment that we ended the year on, the moment that has caused so much conversation. The number one moment of the year is John Cena retires from wrestling. And this was such a unique retirement because it was a unique retirement year. John Cena showing up in 2024 at Money in the Bank and explaining what his plan of action was for his retirement year. And a lot of people not really understanding it until we got into it. You know, John Cena returning at the Royal Rumble was so early in the year that we weren't even thinking about it. John Cena in the Elimination Chamber. And then John Cena turning heel. John Cena going to WrestleMania and people not really understanding where this heel thing was going. But then getting matches with Randy Orton. Getting matches with CM Punk. Getting a pipe bomb promo from John Cena. Hi, Matt Cardona. Hi, Nick Nemeth. I mean, you know, coming out of it, getting a singles match between Cena and Logan Paul, seeing Brock again with Cena, getting a program, a story, not just a match, a story with Dominic Mysterio, and adding to his collection of absolute forever classic matches with AJ Styles, just to name a few, and then the television matches, R-Truth, Sami Zayn. There was so much going on. I wish Kevin Owens hadn't gotten injured, because at some point a John Cena-Kevin Owens match would have been great. I would have loved to have seen a Roman Reigns John Cena match, but we can't see everything. And at a point in the year, questions on who will John Cena's last match be against started to be asked. I must have fantasy booked John Cena's retirement tour, Lord knows how many times. You know, I have no idea how many times, but every time it was different. For a while, I was hoping Drew McIntyre would be John Cena's final opponent, because it would launch Drew McIntyre into the stratosphere going into 2026. But eventually, I kind of realized what was inevitable. They announced that a tournament would be held, and the winner of the tournament would get John Cena's final match. So as soon as the tournament gets announced, you really start to put into perspective what a big deal this last match is, that the last match itself is a reward. And they announced there's going to be stars from Raw and SmackDown, as well as stars from NXT, as well as some faces that don't even work here. And that it's going to be a randomized entrance. They ended up using the tumbler like they do for the Royal Rumble to figure out, who was going to compete in first round matches. And then they were going to go through the tournament. With some really fun stuff. Javon Evans getting to jump in from NXT. You had Zack Ryder returning for the tournament. You had Dolph Ziggler returning for the tournament. You had Solo Sikoa looking strong throughout. You had Carmelo Hayes really sort of building a fan base around a goal, that even if he didn't achieve the goal, the fact that there was that collected experience for Carmelo, I think led people to have this affection for him. That's my guy. That's Carmelo. I want the best for him. I think it did a lot more for a lot more people than we may even realize. Even LA Knight going all the way to the finals of that tournament. But the person that LA Knight fought in the finals of the tournament was the guy that, as soon as I saw the graphic, as soon as I saw a photo of him on the screen, I said he's going to win the tournament. And that was Gunther. Gunther had been off TV for a couple of months. Gunther, I think he had a orbital bone injury or something like that. I don't exactly know. But he had a legit injury, I believe, that kept him off television. And he returned for the tournament. When they announced the tournament, they were airing video of different people that may be in it. And it was video of Gunther walking down the aisle that made you go, oh, Gunther's coming back for this. It made me go, yeah, he's the one. We could talk about the potential. What if this guy won? What if that guy won? And it's all possible. And there's all scenarios that would take us there. But Gunther's winning this thing. It's what's going to happen. And I especially felt that even more so when we first saw Gunther return. And Gunther was even more serious than the previous Gunther had been. Gunther felt a lot more like the old Walter did. Instead of coming out to his own music, he was back to legit classical music, like Beethoven's whatever, or what, Mozart, I don't know who performs it, but it was legit classical music, selling t-shirts that the design is black on a black t-shirt, wearing that fighter's robe and trunks that say the ring general on it, and just no nonsense. And every match that he had was just about beating whoever was in front of him. And he really did show up tremendously in this tournament, to the point where it was all the fun would be sucked out. There was so much fun in the tournament, whether it was the people returning, whether it was whatever. And it would all get sucked out when Gunther walked in the room. It was almost like there were all these stories being told on one end. And then Gunther would show up and end every story. So Gunther gets in there, and at the end, and before the finals in the tournament are Gunther and LA Knight. And even in there, people were like, can you imagine? Can you imagine if our guy LA Knight is able to win this tournament? And that's what Gunther was there for, to give you hope only to take it away. And LA Knight's cutting this promo about this and that and John Cena and blah, blah, blah. And Gunther's promo is real simple. He doesn't care about LA Knight. All of this is just to beat whoever's in front of him so he can go beat John Cena. And he says, look at how I beat LA Knight tonight, because that's exactly how I'm going to beat John Cena. And he puts LA Knight in this submission hold at the end of the match, and he beats LA Knight. And then Gunther shows up on Raw the next Monday. And he says, I'm going to make John Cena do the one thing that he has never done. I'm going to make John Cena give up. And you go, okay, this is taking on new meaning now. So we get to Saturday night's main event. John Cena has not really been a part of the tournament whatsoever. Last time we saw him was at Survivor Series. He was doing his thing with Dominic Mysterio. He lost to Dominic. And now he's off TV until Saturday night's main event in Washington, D.C. Although he does say that he has specifically made this show not just about him, but about what's next by putting on matches featuring NXT stars versus main roster stars, exhibition matches, Obafemi versus Cody Rhodes, Sol Ruca versus Bayley, and Leon Slater and Javon Evans versus AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. And then, of course, we also get a segment involving Miz, R-Truth, and Joe Hendry. So it's a real feel-good show. And you get to the building, and they've shown this on the video footage, but everywhere you look in the building, there was John Cena stuff. Even backstage, John Cena pictures and cardboard cutouts everywhere. You go into catering, there's a giant John Cena ice sculpture. It was an amazing thing to see. And everybody is celebrating John Cena. There's a 2-hour pre-show, and everything on the pre-show is about John Cena and his career and this year and all of his years and what this match means and what this night means and what his impact on the sport is. And then Gunther's music plays. And it's just like, huh. Could this be like it's just so like, oh, here we go. Gunther's music plays and here comes Gunther, right? And John Cena comes out and he tells Stu it's time to go to work, and everybody has been shopping at the John Cena store, and everybody's wearing John Cena merch, and everybody's going crazy. It's the loudest I've ever heard an audience sustain in an arena, sustain a noise. The entire match, people cheering for everything John Cena did. Every time he hit a 5-knuckle shuffle, we cheered because we didn't know if it was the last time we were ever going to see a 5-knuckle shuffle. The 5 moves of doom that he had once been mocked for, he was, cheered for like nothing I've ever seen. And then you had AA's kick out, powerbomb by Gunther, kick out. You had Gunther putting John Cena in holes. Sleeper holes. Don't give up. That's what the audience was chanting. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. And then Gunther puts him in a sleeper hold. And John Cena gets that hand up. And he locks the sleeper hold on tighter. And in this moment, we see John Cena's face. And we see him smile. We see this subtle smile. It's not even that subtle. Go across his face, and then a soft tap out. And in this moment, John Cena is telling us, I have fought with all I have. This is all I have to give. Goodbye and good night. And in my opinion, what I saw is John Cena allowing the John Cena character to die. There's a big difference between John Cena the man and John Cena the professional wrestling character. And, John Cena had said, I'm retiring, I'm done. I know wrestlers are never done, but for once in this industry, this wrestler is done. And he allowed his character to die just to really drive home the point that this is it. And that was it. That was it for John Cena. And I think that that's why John Cena ended up not grabbing a mic. People wondered if he would do a speech. People wondered if he'd do this. People wondered if he'd do that. I think for John Cena, he was ready for that character to die. And he allowed that character to die. And there were a lot of fans that didn't want that character to die. They wanted like a glimmer of hope to be left. Some people go, well, he didn't have to tap out. He could have just passed out. But if he had passed out instead of tapping out, then Gunther would not have ever made him give up. And then he wouldn't have really lost. He wouldn't have really died. There'd still be something. And some people say, well, you could have had like all the good guys come out and beat up Gunther so you can still have a hero's exit. And that's true. But if Gunther had gone out on his ass then Gunther really doesn't have superiority over John Cena. It had to hurt. They did this in a way where it had to hurt because it should hurt because it's Gunther. And that's what Gunther does. He hurts us. He's the bad news. And if you were really going to do it, you just had to peel the Band-Aid all the way off and do it. And I think that's exactly what they did for Gunther. And after the match, John Cena acknowledges the fans, thanks them, says it's been a pleasure serving them. Not into a mic, into the camera. They play a video package of people saying very nice things about John Cena. The entire roster lines up around the ring. And at the time of this recording, it's still the biggest question in wrestling. Did they do the right thing? I believe that for a very long time, that's going to be a question that gets asked when you're having a wrestling conversation amongst wrestling fans. Hey, you think they did the right thing with that John Cena finish? John Cena walked off very emotionally, took a bow, and said goodnight. And that was it. The next Monday on Raw, it was Gunther's time. And to me, the answer of did they do the right thing, well, we won't really know. It won't really be answered until we see how far they can push this Gunther thing. Because if they did the right thing, then Gunther will be as big a heel as you could possibly imagine. If they did the right thing, then Gunther is a made man. And you know, he's going to be able to be a supervillain for a generation. He should be able to be a heel to an entire new generation of talent if they did the right thing. In the short term, did they do the right thing? I think the Raw after Saturday night's main event answers all of that for us. You know, I think the Raw after Saturday night's main event shows us how much people care. And the fact that he was booed as heavily as he was, and people cared as much as they did. I think that's the whole point. You don't want Gunther showing up on Monday Night Raw and being the same Gunther that he was, or a similar Gunther that he was. You want a completely new Gunther. And I think that's what you got with the reaction that Gunther got on Monday Night Raw. And that's why, to me, it's the number one moment of the year. I mean, is John Cena retiring from wrestling? And I think that when you look at all these moments together, right? Because that's what I said. The story of WWE in 2025. When we start with Jey Uso, I mean, even looking at 12-1, right? There's a reason why I did these in this order. The year starts with Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble, an unexpected good guy winning. And it ends with John Cena retiring. And even though that was announced, it's like what should be just a feel-good moment for everybody is how the year starts. And it ends with a sad moment for everybody. And I don't know along where that happened, right? Because our moments, Jey winning the Rumble, Cena turn. I mean, think about all the turns. Cena turning heel. Paul Heyman turning on Roman Reigns. Becky Lynch turning heel. Seth cashing in. The Vision turning on Seth Rollins. Like, there was a lot of heel turns all year long. And it was also, like, a lot of stuff that we thought would never happen, happened. Whether it was John Cena losing the Rumble, whether it was Paul Heyman turning on Roman Reigns, whether it was John Cena turning heel, whether it was Gunther being a retirement machine, whether it was Brock Lesnar returning, whether it was Seth Rollins faking an injury, whether it was AJ Lee returning, whether it was The Vision turning on Seth Rollins, whether it was the John Cena retirement itself. I think that this was a massive year for moments. I think this year was all about the moments. You know, I think that, and I think it's interesting when you look at like 2023 going into 2024. 23 and 24 are bloodline years, in my opinion. And the bloodline story to me, while it had moments, and we can think of those moments, Sami Zayn turning on Roman Reigns at Royal Rumble, right? Cody Rhodes finishing the story, right? Like all this stuff. Everything leads to moments. Everything has to lead to moments. But I think that moments all need to be earned by deep storytelling. And I think that the bloodline years were all about the stories. And if I were to come to you at the end of 2023, the end of 2024, I would probably just tell you the year-long story of the bloodline. And instead, in 2025, you really got a story made up of moments. Boom, this is happening. Boom, this is happening. Boom, this is happening. And I think that sometimes getting hit with moments that quickly, that often, become difficult to process. That's why it's fun for me to get to sit here and have the opportunity to go through them like this. Because you start the year with Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble, Paul Heyman by Roman Reigns' side, John Cena back in the WWE, and you end the and you end the year with John Cena never wrestling again, Roman Reigns on an island, Jey Uso back in the Usos, Seth Rollins posed for a babyface comeback, and a whole new crop of talent, including Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and Logan Paul, that are the ones that now have Paul Heyman by their side. Where we end the year is completely different from where we began the year. And I think that, like, all we can do now is look at where we're ending 2025 and think about where that leads us in to 2026. I think I'm hopeful that Roman Reigns has a big year in 2026. I think Gunther will have a big year in 2026. But I think at the end of 2026, I hope, this is what I really hope. If I could have one thing for WWE in 2026, I want to be able to sit here and talk about how at the beginning of 2026, this is what the field looked like. And at the end of 2026, that is what the field looked like. That as we go into 2027 and WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble, that the people involved are completely different than the people that started. I think that there is such an opportunity because I think that the roster right now in WWE is deeper than a lot of people give credit for. And I think that what I would love to see is movement made to get that roster to a point where it's like, yeah, this is who WWE is now. This is what we're doing. This is I don't want to say the new generation because the new generation was used elsewhere, but you still have enough foundational talent that is active in the WWE. We saw that is such a takeaway for me of the John Cena retirement tour that, like, it did so much for so many, I believe. And I think that we're going to see those results over the next 5 years is probably where we see all of that. Now, look, you've got a certain standard that's been set for the tickets that are being sold, the amount of money that's being made, the size of these events. Like, you can't just throw new people on without big star power. But I think that big star power, I think this year we need to find out what the ability is to create these new stars, to use your stars to build new ones. Because I think you got a group of people that are going to be able to headline these massive, massive shows and that are going to be able to be massive, massive draws. I appreciate you guys hanging out as we have broken down what I think are the top 12 stories in the WWE of 2025 and the stories that make what the WWE was in 2025. I cannot wait to see what 2026 brings. Don't forget to subscribe, youtube.com/NotSamWrestling, all audio platforms, and we will see you again very, very soon for more Not Sam Wrestling.